If you're hearing these words, then perhaps you've already moved past doubt and are ready to step into a part of history the world has never taught you. A document stored deep within the secret archives of an old research institute in Serbia, an unpublished letter, believed to be the final handwriting of Nikola Tesla before he vanished from the public eye. No one has confirmed its authenticity, but what it contains is too precise, too prophetic. It sends chills down the spine of those who read it. This is not a science video. This is a journey, a letter, a message, not meant for the present, but for the future. And if you still believe that humanity is more than just matter, then stay until the very end. Don't forget to subscribe to Mind Success, where every story is a clue guiding you back to your true self. The doorway of doubt. The building sat hidden along a narrow street in Belgrade, its gray bricks coated with the dust of time. People called it the Tesla Legacy Archive Institute, but few ever stepped inside. Not because it was forbidden, but because no one was curious enough to truly understand what Tesla had left behind. Until one day, a young researcher, Elena Markovic, stumbled upon a bundle of yellowed papers, carefully concealed beneath rotting wooden floorboards. No title, no recipient, just trembling handwritten lines. If someone finds this letter, know that the truth doesn't need to be believed. It only needs to exist. Elena's hands trembled. This handwriting, it was Tesla's. One day before he vanished on January 6, 1943, Nikola Tesla was last seen leaving the New Yorker hotel at 4 a.m. He spoke to no one, carried no luggage, only a small box wrapped in old burlap cloth. No one knew what was inside. But in the letter, he wrote, "I have nothing left to lose, except the one thing I have never shared with mankind, how the soul connects to the energy of the universe." Tesla believed that the physical body was merely a temporary expression of a far greater entity, the soul, and that, by tuning into the correct frequency, we could communicate beyond death. The doorway of doubt. The building sat hidden along a narrow street in Belgrade, its gray bricks coated with the dust of time. People called it the Tesla Legacy Archive Institute, but few ever stepped inside. Not because it was forbidden, but because no one was curious enough to truly understand what Tesla had left behind. Until one day, a young researcher, Elena Markovic, stumbled upon a bundle of yellowed papers, carefully concealed beneath rotting wooden floorboards. No title, no recipient, just trembling handwritten lines. If someone finds this letter, know that the truth doesn't need to be believed. It only needs to exist. Elena's hands trembled. This handwriting, it was Tesla's. One day before he vanished on January 6, 1943, Nikola Tesla was last seen leaving the New Yorker hotel at 4 a.m. He spoke to no one, carried no luggage, only a small box wrapped in old burlap cloth. No one knew what was inside. But in the letter, he wrote, "I have nothing left to lose, except the one thing I have never shared with mankind, how the soul connects to the energy of the universe." Tesla believed that the physical body was merely a temporary expression of a far greater entity, the soul, and that, by tuning into the correct frequency, we could communicate beyond death. The secret in the dark. Nikola Tesla is no stranger to the annals of scientific history, yet he remains one of the most isolated figures in the academic world. During his lifetime, many labeled him as a madman, a delusional eccentric lost in fantasy. But after his death in 1943, the US government acted in a way that suggested otherwise. Just hours after his death was announced, a special unit from the Office of Alien Property, backed by the FBI, quietly entered his room at the New Yorker hotel. They seized every document, blueprint, and notebook, none of which were ever made public again. Among the materials was a unique design Tesla called the Covenant of Light Machine, a name that straddled the line between science and myth. In the unpublished letter, Tesla wrote, "If someone finds this device, do not use it to summon spirits, for it is not a gateway to the dead. Use it to understand the loneliness of the universe, and to listen to what humanity has always ignored, the echo of its own voice." Nearly 8 decades later, at the Tesla Legacy Archive in Belgrade, a young researcher named Elena Markovic rediscovered a forgotten sketch hidden in a locked drawer. The device was spherical. 3 concentric metallic shells twisted around a clear quartz core. Engraved around the core were 12 strange symbols, belonging to no known alphabet. Tesla had once hinted he saw them in a waking dream state. Compelled by the mystery, Elena attempted to reconstruct the device according to the diagram. After weeks of preparation, she connected it to power for the very first time. Every light in the room shut off instantly. No glow, no breeze, no electrical hum. But the air changed, dense, as if reality itself had been compressed into a single breathless moment. Then, from within the darkness, a sound emerged. Not machinery, not electricity, but a whisper, faint and distant, as if echoing from the other side of space and time. The final words of the departed. The last part of the letter, ink smudged, as if written by the trembling hand of someone nearing their final breath. "I do not fear death. I only fear that humanity will not understand in time. They are not isolated beings, but sparks of light, connected in a vast, magnificent network. We are light, yet we have forgotten ourselves." The letter ends with a single line. "If you can still hear me, then perhaps that alone is enough for you to begin." The sound from beyond. Elena stood frozen. The whisper she had just heard wasn't coming from any speaker. It resonated, directly inside her mind. She activated the device again. No lights, no screen. Only a soft humming sound. And then suddenly, a voice broke through, fragmented like a radio signal laced with static. "You can hear me now. Finally." She flinched, but not out of fear, because the voice, it sounded exactly like Tesla's, the same tone she'd heard in old recordings. The voice continued, "I no longer exist as I once did, but nothing truly disappears. Energy merely changes form. And if you still remember me, then I still remain." Elena felt as though time itself had stopped in the room. Everything was unnaturally still. The clock had frozen. The wind no longer passed through the window. The 13th frequency. Among the scattered notes found alongside Tesla's final letter, there was one passage he labeled his final warning. There were no diagrams, no construction instructions. Just a single paragraph, hastily scribbled in fragmented handwriting. "There is a frequency. I call it the 13th frequency. Not part of any known spectrum, not meant for transmission, not for communication. It does not emit. It dissolves the very concept of space and time." He emphasized that it was not a tool for speaking with the dead, nor a bridge to the afterlife. It was a mirror, reflecting what exists beneath the mask of perception. Tesla wrote, "This frequency does not create contact. It reveals truth, Not consensual truth, but forgotten truth. Elena, cautiously aligning the device as best she could based on Tesla's fragmented notes, selected the corresponding frequency range. The first 3 minutes. Complete silence. The device emitted nothing. No current fluctuations, no vibrations, no heat, nothing at all. Then suddenly, the glass in the room began to fog as if a thin veil of mist had settled across reality. And then, the images appeared. Faint, ghost-like, but not hallucinations, not memories. More like fragments of a parallel reality leaking into the present. A child stood in a barren desert, clutching a tattered stuffed animal. A man silently wept beneath a gas station lamp, his eyes vacant. A mother rested her forehead on an empty desk, where a small backpack had been left untouched. No one moved. No words were spoken. Only frozen frames, as if captured from the loneliness of time itself. What you're seeing is not the past, nor the future. It is what your mind once pushed away, but still remains encoded in the structure of the universe. Elena stood motionless, each image pierced deep, not into her own memory, but into the memory of someone who had once lived, yet had never truly been heard. It wasn't an illusion. It was the memory of humanity, erased from name, but never from existence. The truth is not for everyone. Not every door should be opened. There are truths not hidden because humanity lacks the intelligence to grasp them, but because it lacks the kindness to endure them. After many nights spent with the device, Elena began to experience dreams she could no longer control. In them, she found herself drifting through a vast black ocean, directionless, weightless, silent. She didn't feel fear, only a deep, haunting emptiness. Each time she awoke, she wrote down every detail, just as Tesla once did. And strangely, every dream contained a number, a symbol, or a string of formulas unknown in any textbook. One night, she dreamt of sitting across from Tesla himself. He wasn't old, nor tired, but appeared as a timeless teacher, returned after centuries. "Elena," he said, his voice calm and low, "don't search for me. Search for yourself. What you're seeing isn't a message from beyond. It's the truth you've always chosen to ignore. Truth doesn't come from answers. It comes from the questions you're afraid to ask." She began to understand. Tesla's device wasn't meant for communication. It was a mirror. Not a tool to prove the afterlife, but a mechanism to force humans to face themselves. After each use, Elena felt herself changing, not mentally, but emotionally, on a level deeper than reason. Things she once dismissed as nonsense or superstition now carried a quiet gravity, profound, wordless, and sometimes too real to bear. In one passage, Tesla had written a warning. "I did not withhold this device out of selfishness. I withheld it because I knew. If humanity does not understand love, it will not survive the full truth." And perhaps he was right. Because truth does not always set you free. Sometimes it breaks you, if your heart is not strong enough to carry the light you've always dreamed of. The final drop. 2 months after she began studying the device, Elena was no longer herself. She spoke less, grew more contemplative, and at times, people would find her standing silently before the lab's glass wall, doing nothing, just staring into the void as if speaking to something that wasn't there. She began writing a new journal, but this time, it wasn't scientific documentation. It was fragments of reflection, like someone preparing to leave the life they once knew. "I no longer know if I'm awake or dreaming, But each time the device activates, I feel closer to what Tesla called the primordial light. It has no color, no shape, but it knows me. One late winter day, Elena left the archive without warning. Her desk remained untouched, instruments neatly arranged. Only one thing was left behind: a tape recorder on the table with a single recording. Now I understand why Tesla chose silence. Some things should not be spoken, not because they are dangerous, but because they are sacred. And only silence is worthy of that kind of truth. If you're hearing this, don't try to understand with logic. Let yourself be quiet long enough for your heart to speak. Elena was never found. No trace of her departure. No train ticket. No hotel booking. No travel journal. She vanished as if she had never existed, leaving only the sense that she had reached where she was meant to go. The lab's manager later shared, in the nights that followed, during his rounds, he would often hear a faint sound, not quite wind, not quite electricity, but something like a melody without music. And at times, he saw a soft glow within the device, even though it had been unplugged. The final light. No one truly knows what happened to Elena Markovich. No official record confirms the letter's authenticity. No scientific document verifies that Tesla ever built the Covenant of Light device. And perhaps that is exactly as it should be. Because if everything you've heard today came wrapped in evidence and scientific approval, this story would be reduced to nothing more than a hidden technical artifact. But if something within you stirred, even for a fleeting moment, then maybe you don't need proof. Maybe all you need is a quiet space to listen. Tesla did not leave behind an eternal formula. He never claimed to have discovered the door between worlds. What he left, through sketches, devices, or an unsent letter, was a reminder that we are not alone, that light never truly fades as long as someone remembers it, and that truth does not reside in machines, but in how we face the loneliness within ourselves. If you've ever lost someone, ever stood in the dark and still felt their presence, ever looked up at the sky and silently asked, "Are you watching me?" Then you already understand. You understand that death doesn't take everything, and sometimes all it takes is silence, long enough to hear the unspoken call from the other side of time. We are light, who forgot we once illuminated. And if your heart remains open, no one is ever truly gone. A final message. If this story made you pause and reflect, don't rush to explain it. Just hold that feeling, like a seed in your soul. Because sometimes, truth is not found through the eyes, but through quiet belief. Subscribe to Mind Success if you believe that every story is a small spark, guiding us back to ourselves.